strips the play down quite a bit. He takes away the children. He takes away Anne-Marie. It's a very minimalist approach to the play. And for me, it was revelatory.
Mm.
Whereas I had seen, traditionally you see, because that was the age of, we just peel back the fourth wall and we're watching real life. And so there was a lot of attention to, little details and curlicues and Victorian type furniture and, stoves that worked and all that sort of thing.
Right.
And somehow when he stripped all this down, it excited me in such a way that I saw a new possibility, and it actually removed for me this idea of it's a history piece.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they were still in the silhouettes of the 1800s, and all of that. So, she was corseted and all that business.
Right.
But there was still like things stripped away. So I was very excited by that idea. And I also felt very committed to this idea that we're not just talking about Nora's freedom and Nora's potential for a human being, but all the characters in the play are in essence like encased in a kind of role play that they feel that they can't escape. Mm-hmm. Because society has determined this is what a husband is, this is what a father is, this is what a banker has to be, like a doctor or this or that. And one must play these roles and maintain a very strict semblance of order in oneself. And so, one's self-expression becomes restricted, and there is no room to breathe at all. And so I thought, how can I make this Ronk's play and Krogstad's play and Torvald's play as well as Nora's, And I started to get this, I don't know how you do this, Robin, but I often get an image in my mind sometimes, and an image will start me off. Like sometimes I get it from a painting. Like sometimes I look at big art books or something.
Absolutely.
Like I remember this Merry Wives of Windsor. I was like this girl leaning out the window and there were grapes, and she was kind of had this little look on her face. And I was like, oh, that's my Merry Wives.
Yeah.
And so with this one, I had this picture of Torvald naked in this brass bed, and it had to have like, the poles, so that he was in that marital bed, vulnerable because he was naked, and in jail, as it were. And then I had this other image of Nora coming in with one of those huge iron keychains attached to her belt, as housewives did. And I wanted these white sheets. And he's tangled up. I didn't have nudity, a hint of it, but but that she would, as she went, she put the keys down onto the white sheet and turned, and I wanted there to be doors, and the door opens, pow, like magic, and I wanted the sun to be coming up.
Right.
So it's like a new morning. And so I had all that. I was like, that's got to be my last image somehow.
Sure.
I have to make that work.
Sure.
And I actually got this brass bed. I got this brass bed from someone, and I was like, I gave it to the set designer, and I started to say, I said, I have a lot of ideas. I hope you don't mind. I said, I want you to be expressed artistically. I said, but I wanted to see people coming and going a little bit.
Right.
So the walls were scrimmed. So that, for instance, we saw Ronk, with his cigar as he was leaving. We could see Krogstad put the letter in the box.
Right.
Which I made out of plexiglass.
Right.
because I wanted to see that. I wanted to see that go in, and her waiting and waiting and waiting for him to fish that thing out and trying to stop him.
Yep.
And the other thing that seemed really important to me was that the couple, the central couple, Torvald and Nora, be extremely attracted to each other sexually.
Sure. Yeah.
That there was this heat between them that was undeniable, and that when the tarantella happens, that it became a real sexual moment after that party. And that I sort of took the lights down as he was pulling her clothing off. But I thought, well, it's sort of the actress's choice. Is she submitting to him? Does she want to have one last time to make love to him? Has she made up her mind? I think it's clearly ambiguous on Ibsen's part.
Yep.
And so I do think it's interesting to allow the audience that kind of ambiguity for them to project on, So because I couldn't find all of those elements, there were things that, for instance, in the Bergman script, he took away the children. And to me, that was like taking away the pathos. When you see those little children and you realize the sacrifice that she makes. And I also really wanted to have Anne-Marie, because we realized this is a choice for someone who is financially able. Anne-Marie has no choice.
Right.
She must, as she says, she must live. Right. So she gives up her children. To go take care of someone else's children. And we don't hear about that choice. It's just forced upon her because of her social class. And so I had to include that. I thought that's a really important element of the play. And also I really wanted that relationship between Ronk and Nora. Like, what is that about? What is that intersections? And his choice being taken away by his own father because he visited the son, his sins upon the son. And so I searched and I searched, and I must have read, 16 translations, which I bought and I underlined, and I worked on it for God knows how long, and I did a lot of research. And then finally I realized, you're going to have to do it yourself. So I stole a lot of dialogue,
Yeah. So so you copied and pasted as it were.
I did. I copied, I pasted, I borrowed, I begged, I stole.
Yeah. Well, it's out there. It's out there.
Yeah. Some things I rewrote, and then, some of the English translations, which I found were pretty good in terms of like keeping the suspense and dramaturgically that lead up to, that wonderful thing that has to happen. The tension of that, like they really were good at keeping that. But then it was like Mummy and Daddy and, all that stuff. And I was like, ugh. So it's like, keep that structure, change that dialogue,
Yeah.
And so, I think I don't know. In the end, I was satisfied with the script. We, like you, it was a lot of give and take. So sometimes words would change, and I had to have somebody constantly there. Working on the text and keeping track of changes and that sort of thing.
Yeah. That must have been. But that's exciting. That's exciting stuff. That you're actually creating a script. You're actually creating, something that's very unique to that production. Can I ask you, were there any interesting reactions to the production that you want to articulate?
Yeah, there were. I also did it in the like in a 3/4 thrust situation. I was in a proscenium theater, but I had stadium seating on the stage,
right?
Because I wanted that feeling of like that they're under the microscope.
Sure. Yep.
And so there were people quite close to them, and also for teaching purposes, you know, like this group of actors hadn't had a chance to play 3/4 thrust, and
Right.
you know, there's all those things that they need to learn to work.
Yeah. Sightlines. Yeah.
Yeah, and the intimacy worked really well.
Sure. Yeah.
There was what surprised me, because okay, we were now at it was the height of Me Too.
Okay.
You know, so that was very much in the forefront of the conversation. We had a lot of talkbacks, and there was a lot of anger.
Really?
Directed at many characters, you know. You know, some people just finding it absolutely inconceivable that a mother could leave her children.
Right.
You know, that it's still like the worst thing you could do.
Right.
You know,
right.
the most, you know, lacking all femininity and all,
yep.
you know,
yep.
So there was shock. There was a lot of shock. It engendered a lot of discussions between people. You know, people talking about Krogstad's position, and you know, it was interesting because they didn't find him a villain. You know, they saw his dilemma. They saw that he was conflicted but you know, fighting for his place in society. So it was interesting. I thought that there were a lot of gasps. A lot of people found the sexuality, like, you know,
jarring.
You know, we did a lot of the changes happened on Vista. So we did, like I had 4 serving girls in period costume, and basically, you know, everything kind of flew away, and the bed came floating on as the tarantella music continued.
Sure.
And Torvald and Nora were embracing downstage, you know.
Yep.
And then basically this brass bed came sort of spinning on, and a huge white sheet went up, and Torvald went under it, you know, and then emerged naked. There was a lot of like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know, and then there was a lot of interesting kind of more intellectual discussions from the academic types, you know, about its place in history and all that business, which was, you know, dry and expected and all that stuff. But I was more interested in the reaction from the younger people, and them sort of kind of not even fathoming that a woman couldn't, you know, sign for a loan or you know, have any autonomy whatsoever. That was shocking to them. Like some people didn't even realize that was a thing.
Well, what's interesting is that you seem to have visceral responses from most of the audience, which Ibsen had as well when he first did it, you know. And they were very angry.
Yeah.
And they talked about it afterwards, you know, as part of a conversation. It's interesting. It's interesting about you're talking about how they were just, you know, the Me Too movement, everything that was, you know, nailing Nora for leaving in a negative way. When we were studying it in undergrad in the 80s, we had a lot of people, and even males, think that Torvald was a complete asshole, like a real jerk for calling her my little squirrel, my little this, my little that. Very domineering. Machismo, the words like that. Male chauvinism. And male chauvinism was looked down upon in the 80s for for some reason. It was taboo, you know, at the time. It's changed a bit, you know, but it depends. It's so funny when you're reading something in a certain decade, you know, how it's affecting everybody
Yes,
in that decade.
exactly.
Um,
We grow up with these plays, and these plays keep informing us about our
right,
human condition, because they don't, it's just that thing that the problem that I have with the Doll's House too. It doesn't preach at us.
right,
It presents us with our own,
sure,
what we've created as a society. Because even though there's much more equality nowadays, and women are, feel, every right to have an education and to work and all that,
yep,
but
yep,
still, the balance of home chores and child rearing fall to the women. Women still
still
make
do,
less money, you
yep,
know. But I think if this play is approached, like for instance, the problem with Torvald, the problem for a modern
right,
audience to hear this guy is, if we really feel that this guy is madly in love with his wife,
yes,
you
yes,
know, and
yes,
also she is deceiving him.
she is, she
And
is,
she plays into the whole, oh,
she
I'm just
is,
a little,
yep, yep,
It was funny because the woman that was playing Nora, this young woman, is a fierce young woman. She's a
mhm,
powerful, athletic, a strong-willed woman. And she was like, I don't know how, and I was like, I had to have her, like remember when she was talking to her dad, and
yeah,
she wanted to go to the movies with her girlfriends, and she
yep,
was 12
yep,
years old, and
yep,
daddy, it's like you would use whatever you had at the time to
right,
get what you need,
yep,
you know
and of course Torvald is the father, and it's coming,
yes,
you know, it's the same figure,
right.
yeah, and yeah, uh, so that's great stuff. Um,
I'm so happy for you guys, and
oh,
so
thanks.
excited that you're taking this on, and I can't wait to see it, so please invite.
Yeah, yeah, and we're moving along. And this is wonderful stuff, because some stuff that you're saying I never thought of.
Oh, good.
A lot of it is stuff I have thought of, but some of the stuff is I never thought of. Not that I'm going to you know, do it, you know, well, she said she did this, so I'm going to do that. It's stuff it's stuff that's for discussion, and I
Yeah,
think that's a wonderful thing. That's why I'm having these interviews,
yeah,
because it's great for discussion. And I'll probably, you know, tonight at 3 o'clock in the morning go, I know what she means by that, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's true, you know, and I'll probably see
Those,
that.
those things about the doors opening.
Right, right.
Um, oh God, in that moment, I gotta say, like one of my favorite moments in the whole play
Hmm.
is thanks for the light.
Yep,
I
yep,
I don't know why it crushes me. It
yep,
completely slays me, that
yep,
moment
yep,
of that love that he has for her.
yeah,
That's so unrequited and so powerful
yep,
and can't be expressed, but she's given him this gift of her presence,
hmm,
you know? And also that Nora feels that she has the power to delight.
yep,
You know what I mean? That she gives it as a gift, herself, her
hmm,
joy, her delight in life, her ability to make the lights brighter. It's
yeah,
a wonderful feminine quality.
yep,
And there's nothing wrong with giving it as a gift.
right.
It 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 stays on that edge though. There's that moment with the stockings,
Oh yeah,
you
oh yeah,
know, where poor Ronk is like, I had that, got those old fashioned stockings that really have the shape of a
oh yeah,
woman's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
leg,
That's
and
awesome.
that taking that silk stocking and
That's
feeling it on his
yeah,
face, and imagining, touching her leg inside of it, that,
sure, sure,
the ecstatic vision that he has of that,
right. Yeah,
and, um,
because
and
he's
then
quite the Victorian gentleman that may never have that, you know. Um,
he's
how
one of
did
my
you?
favorite characters
Oh,
from
I
that.
know he's wonderful. He's
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, did you take the idea that it was Christmas time seriously with your production?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were certainly, you know, there were presents, there was a tree. I mean, the children so excited. You know, we started with the classic thing of there was a doll on the set as the audience came in.
Yep.
You know, like with a china face and kind of the sofa. And then the little boy had a toy soldier, a tin soldier. And but yeah, I think that whole idea of, you know, that season of it's a gift and, you know, all that business. And Christine is fascinating. She shows up right there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we've been working on their dynamics. We've been working on that. I have cast both Nora and Christine to look alike.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that there, but for the grace of God.
Yep. Yep. There's that. There's the jealousy. There's the envy. There's the, you know, the two cheerleaders that were in high school together. You know, that type of paradigm, and it's uncanny. But I think it's going to work really well because they're already doing that. They're already, you know, they see themselves in a mirror sometimes when they're talking, and you know, one is criticizing the other one, and we're just using so many active verbs, and that relationship's going to be great to cultivate. Just wanted to ask you, because we didn't quite get into it, what do you think of how the pandemic has affected theater at all? Or did you feel that it was a negative, completely negative force that had to be reckoned with? Or do you feel that there were, you know, some opportunities that came out of it?
All of the above.
All of it, okay.
You know, financially, for those of us who make our living.
Yep.
It was really devastating.
Yep.
I mean, I started collecting my pension from equity.
Oh, cool.
Because I was like, what am I gonna do? You know?
Yeah.
Even the theater that I was working for, because they're a very successful theater, they paid out my contract, even though we were only a week and a half into the run of the play. Right. And they played out. There was another play coming along, House and Garden, play, and they paid them, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
But so it was devastating, and so many companies folded. I mean, I have, you know, like two of my best girlfriends run the American Players Theater in Spring Green, Wisconsin. You know, they were just devastated financially. They're going to survive, but you know, Idaho Shakespeare Festival, which I worked for all the time, it was just devastating.
Are they completely folded?
No.
Idaho, no. Oh, okay.
They're coming back, but they're coming back with a very small season, you know, and even the rep, the company in Delaware that, you know, I don't know how he does this, but it's like it's like the Royal Shakespeare Company presents whatever. That's how much he spent on designers and directors and costumes and sets. Yeah. It's magnificent what he does. And I don't know where he gets the money.
Yeah. Do you feel that they got hit hard too, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they got hit.
He's a resident company.
Yeah.
And he's paying these people, I mean, because he pulled people from the Alley, he pulled people from the Guthrie. And since he got them to leave those companies, you know, he's paying $80,000 a year to these actors.
Wow.
And keeping them on through COVID. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
But he said to me, because we're in touch all the time, he said, we're going to do very small plays.
Right.
And a lot of the, you know, the resident actors will direct, and, you know, it's going to be a very tight couple of seasons, you know. And,
were you teaching and directing during this pandemic as well?
Well, no, because I had taken a semester off because I had done, so I did Caesar, and this sounds so funny, and The Music Man in Rotary Rep. So Charlie Fee, the artistic director, he's the artistic director of the Idaho Shakespeare Festival, Great Lakes Theater, that's in Boise, Great Lakes Theater in Cleveland, and then he also runs the Lake Tahoe Shakespeare Festival out there in California, Nevada. And he runs his rep through the 3 theaters. It's can you imagine the casting and and the sets are being shipped all over the place.
Oh my
I
God.
call them the McDonald's of regional theater. Got a franchise in every state. But so I was gone so much that I had to take the whole fall semester off because I was doing Caesar until November, and then I had the contract to do the Crucible right after that.
Right.
So I was basically having a professional season, and but I did direct when as soon as COVID started. I was supposed to go immediately into directing Twelfth Night at Fairleigh Dickinson University in Madison, New Jersey. And of course we were pulled, which devastated me because I've been dreaming of directing Twelfth Night for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I had everything worked out in my mind, wrecked the whole thing. And now I had to do it on Zoom. So the students had ring lights, they photographed themselves, they got their cues on Zoom. We did the love scene between Orsino and Viola. I always wanted to have it in a Victorian bathtub.
Okay.
And that he, as they says, young as you are, I think some object hath taken your fancy. And I said, oh yes, my lord, about your complexion, And that he hands her, I wanted him to be naked in a tub and handing her a sponge and like, wash my back.
Right.
And so she's behind him washing his back, and he's starting to get turned on by this little boy washing his back. And they're talking about love, and they're both facing out. So I was like, I'm not giving that up. I'm not giving that up. So my Orsino was in Colorado and my Viola was in New Jersey. And my Orsino's parents had one of those big, huge, jetted tubs that's like sunken and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So we filmed him.
Sure. Yeah.
Props were courtesy of Amazon, sent all over the country.
Yeah.
Viola had a little bowl in front of her. We see her squeeze out the sponge. We see her hand, go out of the screen. And then he had a friend in Colorado, just her hand came in the screen.
Gotcha.
And she started to wash his back.
That's
and
great.
people were like, that was the sexiest scene.
Because
they're 3,000 miles away from each other. And the sword fights.
It's in this frame,
There was a lot of like passing props out the frame and then bringing them back in,
Right.
12th Night. And
which
then
at some point you may be, at some point you might be interested in doing it in a film version,
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, of course, there's no substitute for the love, for the real deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we all feel that way. But there is some good that's going to come out of it. I have to believe it because I'm a cockeyed optimist. And I just have to believe that some glorious thing is going to arise out of that. And that is that we all miss each other so terribly.
Yeah.
And we miss the experience of gathering with people in the dark to hear a story told and having our lives revealed to us in such a way that we experience, catharsis.
Sure. Because we have to do it together.
We have to do it in the, like, sitting in the dark together,
The Greeks,
Nothing else. No film. I don't care what you say. No film ever give you that experience.
Right.
But what this pause did was not only heighten our hunger and our appetite for it.
Right.
But there's also kind of like what you guys are doing now is taking the long view. And I often think, when you can't quite figure out a moment in a play, or you're just like up against it and you're like, oh, it's not quite right. I know it's not right, but I don't know what it is. And I always say, put it on the back burner.
Yep.
Like you let it simmer and don't bang your head against the wall.
I remember that.
Get it.
Yep.
And then, in a dream at night, or you're, I don't know, out doing the laundry or something.
Sure.
And you go, oh my gosh, there it is.
Yep.
There's something about putting something aside and letting it take care of itself. I mean, look at what happened during the plague. Shakespeare wrote Lear and Hamlet, and
Yeah.
So even if we can't quite put our fingers on what we've accomplished in this period, in this plague period, I think that the rewards and the gifts of it are going to keep coming as we get back into our, table reads and rehearsals and doing all those familiar activities, but they're now so precious,
Yeah. And then when we have, I'm using a lot of time over the summer for this, which is great.
Yes.
But when we go back to a very, very, a smaller schedule, we still can use Zoom. If you're working on a scene, you can say, are you free on a Monday night, dark night at 8 o'clock? Let's work that scene,
Not only that, what I did quite a bit, because I'm working with young and experienced actors, I had an assistant director, and we had various rooms.
Right.
We had one of the ASMs in with somebody in some scene. I said, just run it, lines.
Yeah.
And then we had the assistant director. I said, cue pickup, I just gave her assignments. So we had like a 3-ring circus going.
Yeah. What was great about what I think I told you, we did the Playhouse that I was involved with. The artistic director and I did a thing called Keep the Ghost Light On, which was this type of Zoom with people like you in the business. And what was, I think I said this to you, but I just want to say it now again. What was great is not one of them left. Not one of them left the business.
Oh, wow.
Because because in a way they're trained for this. They're going to be rejected anyway.
Exactly. What else is new?
Yeah, what else is new? My father was in the theater. He said, it's always been horrible.
So I know when people are like, I'm unemployed. I'm like, so.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Collect unemployment. You want to know how to do it? Or find it. Sometimes I've had 5 jobs. It's like,
absolutely,
to support your theater habit. That's what you have to do.
And
especially if you stay in the theater, which isn't ever going to make you a rich person.
Yeah, and we had about 50 to 75 guests throughout about 6 or 7 months doing this, and they were all smiling and happy, and any
way to connect to people.
Yeah, any way to connect. And I'm writing, I'm writing songs. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So if they're not starving, they were at least looking forward to a future that they could get back into it, that type of thing.
The thing that I worried a little bit about with all these, because after 12th and I did actually I was like, can I do it? I was talking to the head of the program. I said, could I do something other than a bridges comedy?
Yeah. Yeah.
2 in a row, And I was like, but I wanted to do a Hamlet, like a really tight, compact Hamlet, where the Hamlets changed every act. I don't know, they just took a hat and passed it out of the frame, and the other Hamlet came on, just to give them a chance to kind of, and at that age they're fascinated by Hamlet, and she was like, oh, it's so depressing, everybody dies. Some great play's going to come out of this too.
Yes. Yeah. And I've been teaching some Shakespeare over in the Bard Room to adults and to kids and stuff like that. And I've met kids, you meet people all across the country, or in other countries as well. You can do that, now. So I think I'm looking forward to a hybrid type of an environment.
It does allow, this new technology really does allow a kind of, even for someone like me, like now that I'm going through, you cannot believe what they're throwing at me in terms of my chemotherapy.
Sure.
Some days I can't even lift my head up,
Wow.
I'm so sick from it, but I could continue working because I didn't have to I live in Manhattan and jump in my car and drive out to New Jersey and teach for 3 hours solid and commute back through the traffic and all that stuff. And I was still able to teach, and I'm a little bit worried about this fall, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You're returning to classes.
I know, and then there's going to be the new normal, going back to the old normal. It's going to be wacky. So I really appreciate you coming out.
It's a pleasure, Robin.
Great stuff. I will keep in touch with you. And you
I
know,
want to see this production. So.
Okay, cool.
I'm in Rhode Island, you know, so we have a little house, a little cottage here in Rhode Island, which has been our savior for COVID, because
sure,
I didn't want to be in New York with my
absolutely.
system completely kaput.
Yeah.
So we go back and forth, you know, I go down there and have my chemotherapy and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's, but I'm like right on the Connecticut border.
Okay,
in Southern
cool.
Rhode Island.
All right.
So I'm all for Connecticut.
we were a pretty good state during this whole thing. So thank you so much, and see you soon, and good luck. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, have a wonderful experience and great rehearsals, guys.
Thank you. And so goodbye from the Bard Room.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.